So if I stop moving and planning and doing, it's all going to fall apart.
You know that moment when the day finally quiets down and instead of relaxing, your brain gets louder? The questions start showing up. Why am I so tired? Why does my anxiety feel different than it used to? Why does my life look fine but feel off? You don't have time to think about it during the day, so it waits for you at night. This is What the Shift, the podcast for those 2 a.m. thoughts you keep trying to ignore. The ones about exhaustion, people pleasing, overfunctioning, boundaries, changing bodies, shifting identities, and the quiet realization that nothing is wrong. It just can't keep going the same way. I'm Gia Lacqua, and if it's been keeping you up at 2 a.m., it's trying to tell you something. Welcome to What the Shift. If you've been having that 2 a.m. moment where you realize something in your life needs to shift, you are in the right place. Welcome back to What the Shift. I'm your host, Gia Lacqua. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to welcome back Alyssa Scarano to the show. Alyssa is the founder and clinical director of the Collective Therapy and Wellness. Known for her empathetic and compassionate approach, Alyssa views her work as a profound privilege, an opportunity to be invited into the most intimate and vulnerable parts of her clients' lives. Specializing in relationships, she is dedicated to helping individuals heal from childhood trauma, break generational patterns, and cultivate meaningful, authentic connections with others by first supporting them in fostering self-compassion. And on a personal note, I just want to say Alyssa is truly a gift in the space of healing. She is so passionate about the work that she does, and she brings such care to every conversation, which is something you just feel immediately. So I am so grateful. Welcome, Alyssa. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, Gia. It's so good to be back and to reconnect with you. I'm really happy that we've been able to stay in touch and that we're having this conversation today.
Absolutely. Same here, back by popular demand. So today, Alyssa and I talked about diving into something that most high performing women experience, which is kind of the premise of this whole show, but we don't really talk about it. And that's why this show exists, is to talk about the things we don't talk about, in particularly those 2 a.m. moments when our mind is kind of going crazy. And, today we're going to talk about why stillness can feel triggering for some of us, and also what those 2 a.m. thoughts might actually be trying to tell you. So let's start. The moment we start to wind down as high performing women, we're going from, 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., nonstop work, kids, housework, chores, chauffeuring, cooking, prepping, calls, emails, you name it,
Yeah.
right? It's one thing on top of another. Why is it, Alyssa, in your experience, that the moment things finally get quiet at night, when the day is over and we can finally quote unquote relax, why is it that that is when our brain gets so loud?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I believe is fundamental to a lot of our behaviors or reactions throughout life are our early social learnings about who we are and who we need to be, right? And so, from a very young age, women and men, all of us, we develop these ideas of performance a lot of the time, right? Maybe we were rewarded for our behavior or for our productivity or for being the good girl, right? By following all the rules and getting everything done, or even being a caretaker very young. And so to step outside of that, it sometimes feels really unfamiliar, and it can also contribute to an overfunctioning that I think a lot of women face in life. We've got all these different hats, and so what happens is at night when all of the distractions are gone because there's not much else to do, right? Except okay, now I've got to relax, right? Or the phone isn't ringing and the kids are asleep. And even if that's a small window because our kids wake up throughout the middle of the night, wind up in our room, there's still a sense of what should I be doing? I should be doing something. I didn't get to that thing, right? That needs to get done. Oh, I forgot I need to make that doctor's appointment, right? And those 2 a.m. thoughts can be about, all the things we didn't get to and the things that we have to get to in the future, or even sometimes, what did I miss? Or how
Mhm.
didn't I show up today for my kids or my family? And I should have shown up better. Like we're holding ourselves sometimes to this really high standard, that a standard that was put in place long ago, right? It becomes about survival over time. And if I don't have any of those distractions or anything that's busying me, I'm forced to kind of face my nervous system that is in hypermobility, that is in a state of hypervigilance. And that underneath that is really fear. So we're
Mhm.
confronted with our own fears without something else to do to distract us.
So beautifully stated, and there's so much there that we have to dive into. So let's start with the concept of overfunctioning because we both talk about this in the work that we do. We've talked about this together before, but for listeners who may not know that much about it, let's just kind of baseline. We know that a lot of high performing women are overfunctioning. We know that it becomes a coping strategy or mechanism that we adopt over time, and it ends up becoming so ingrained that we don't even know we're doing it because we think it's just part of our personality. But tell us just in a very basic terms, what is overfunctioning?
Over functioning, I like to call it, is self sacrifice over self loyalty, right? So I'm saying yes to things because maybe it's a wish or an expectation that I have of myself when in reality I'm so depleted or it's not realistic, right? Because I'm holding myself to the standard of getting things done or holding it all together. But what I'm actually doing is I'm functioning on all of these different domains of my life, including for other people. And I'm forgetting to function for myself.
So doing all the things and sometimes often more than our fair share of what needs to get done, and that's physically, emotionally, psychologically, all the things where we're picking up those weights for
Mhm.
other people that often other people should be carrying on their own, but we try to carry it for them. And then to your point, inevitably we are not caring for ourselves.
Yeah. Our lives can start to be about all of the things that we have to do and the hats that we wear,
Mhm.
versus it really being about ourselves or where
Mhm.
in our lives, am I still able to be myself? It can feel like there's no room left.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And the other thing you said that I want to go back to is the busyness and the productivity. So we also know maybe when we're in it, and I know when I was in the thick of it, I didn't see it, but now that I'm out of it, I can see that busyness was a coping mechanism. Productivity was a coping strategy. And you're right, it's a distraction. It keeps us distracted from feeling the things that we maybe don't want to feel or the emotions that we don't want to deal with that come up. So talk to us a little bit about, how our busyness and productivity can actually mask what's going on underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a good point that I think maybe is at the core of it as well, is that productivity and being able to accomplish things, it feels good, right? So, oh my gosh, look at everything I've accomplished, or I've gotten this really great feedback from my boss, or everybody really values that about me, that they can count on me, and I always hand in something that is top notch, right? It
Mhm.
feels really good to get all of those things done and to get that feedback in that way. And it becomes, if you're high functioning, it becomes like this cycle where we want to continue to have that feeling because it feels good. And that feel good feeling covers up or lowers the intensity of the stuff that's underneath, right? And the stuff that's underneath, it can be thoughts, it can be emotions, and it can even be certain dynamics in our life that are causing those emotions, right? So, for example, perhaps you're feeling really lonely, right? Or not good enough, or you're feeling unworthy, right? Those are all core human emotions that
Mhm.
anyone can experience. And sometimes those emotions come from long ago unhealed parts in family of origin, or when we're younger. And it perpetuates over time without resolve. But we find these ways to plug in and to feel good. So it carries over, carries over, carries over, and because now maybe we're throwing ourselves into work, we're not noticing how we're unfulfilled in our relationships, or our relationships at home, like with our spouses, starts to kind of have a lot of distance or resentment. And things can can fall apart, right? So it could be a bunch of things. It could be loneliness. It could be not good enough. It could be a sense of not feeling lovable. Um, yeah. So I mean, it could be a bunch of things. I think another one is if you've had to grow up really fast or be a caretaker really young, right, not really getting a chance to be a child and be innocent and play and have space for daydreaming and imagination and things like that. There is a sense of if I don't do it all, who will? Or nobody can do it like me, so I might as well just do it myself, right? So if I stop moving and planning and doing, it's all gonna fall apart,
Mhm.
which is really scary.
Mhm.
Which is really scary.
Very scary, and it sounds like you're in the heads of our listeners right now because I hear that every day in the work that I do, and I know I was there as well, and it is scary because you feel the weight of the world, and then you don't know any other way, and you don't think there's any way out of it, right? And there's almost this sense of pride, to your point, around, "Look how much I can do. Look how much I can carry," not recognizing the toll that it takes on you
Mhm.
and the effect it has on the people around you. And so it is a very hard pattern to break. And like you said, there's that reward. It's the hit of dopamine when I used to submit a PowerPoint presentation at 1 a.m. and I'm like, yes, I did it. I got it in by the deadline, last minute, under the wire, and it made this person happy. And so it becomes an even harder to cycle, even harder cycle to break when you do have that reward system in play and that becomes part of your identity and who you are. So if I'm doing all the things and everybody comes to me and everyone relies on me, who am I if I'm not?
Yep, exactly. And there's the other aspect of it here is that it feels good in the sense of like our self-esteem, right? To be that person that I can count on to get things done,
Yeah.
right? I may not have any control over all this other stuff, including my fear, including my child's behavior or my spouse's reactions or whatever the case may be. I know at the end of the day, I can count on me to get these things done. So to even sit here and stop and say, wait, what is it that I actually even need help with? Is
Mm,
sometimes in and of itself a whole nother mental load journey of like being able to decipher what to delegate and what to give off, or how do I even stop to tell you what I need?
right. And then you get down this rabbit hole of now I got to tell you how to do it so that you do it correctly. And that's just even more work for me. Therefore, I'm just going to do it myself.
Right. It'll be easier and faster. Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, it's so true and also so detrimental, and we have to start to shift out of that thinking and look at ways of helping ourselves and ways of realizing that there are different ways of living and leading and healthier ways. And I think it really, for me, I know it came down to the identity shift of this is not who I want to be. And I think the easiest way for me to break that cycle was to look at the role model I was setting for my two girls. Like, is this the role model? Is this what I'm teaching them being a working mother looks like? And what a precedent am I setting for them? And I realized this isn't it. This is not the model I want them to believe is the right way to live. And so that made it very clear to me, right, that something had to shift and something had to change. And going back to the stillness piece of this, I can speak from personal experience. Years ago, people would say meditate and do yoga and all these things. And I was like, I can meditate. That's just not something I'm able to do. Right.
Right.
And, the stillness was not only uncomfortable, but the silence was painful. For me, I know why. I remember my coach at the time said, "Why do you think that is?" And I said, "Because of all the stuff that's going to come up."
Mhm.
Like, of course, but it didn't really occur to me in that moment that there's a way out of that, and there's something to be done with that. I just sort of accepted it as this is the way I am, this is the way it is, and I had intellectually dealt with a lot of things from the past, but, uh, they had been suppressed, a lot of suppressed and repressed emotions and feelings that had not been dealt with at the time. And so those were the things that were coming up into your point, my nervous system.
Mhm.
that I made me very uncomfortable. So when you think about, and I know this is a common experience for women, Alyssa, talk to us a little bit about, why we feel allergic to stillness and what's really going on in those moments.
It's a great question because I think part of it is now compounded with how quickly we're able to move through life, right? And it seems like things are moving even faster over the last 5 or 6 years, right? Because the truth is that we have a lot of immediate gratification, right? And we've got a lot of noise. We have all these devices in our house that can immediately play a song. We've got all this software that can help us do our jobs, right? And get like quick emails sent out. So A is that we're so used to moving so fast and moving through that to-do list, right? I can go right on my phone and order the thing that I need for a party for Saturday. So we're doing a lot more in general just to make it through our day. Is a little quick tangent. I remember very recently, even my own life, like saying to my mom, like, how did you do it? How did you raise two kids and have a full-time job and, do all of the things? Because doctor's offices aren't open on the weekends. By the time you finish work, the offices are closed. By the time, how do you get these appointments? How do you have these parent teacher conferences? And what she had actually said to me is, there was less to do. There was less people reaching out to you or having ways to reach you throughout the day. If you didn't answer the phone because you weren't home, you didn't answer the phone because you weren't home. There was no cell phones. So I say that because socially and culturally, we live in an environment where speed is built in and productivity is expected,
Yeah.
right? And with that comes more immediate gratification in general. So, why we have a hard time with actually being still is a, it's unfamiliar, especially as we consider, the demands that come with daily life. And B, it doesn't feel good to connect with the stuff that's underneath and
Yeah.
driving some of this productivity in the first place, seeking fulfillment or seeking to feel good. So when we sit and we stop and we slow down, we realize all that stuff that's under the surface.
Mhm.
And it's scary because allowing it to come up means I have to relinquish control. It means that I might cry. It means that I might admit that I'm afraid that I might not be able to make it happen. It means sometimes even acknowledging my relationship isn't in a good place or my kids are really struggling. And we need to, I think, as humans feel like we have some sense of control
Mhm.
with our environment. We do. With our phones, we do. We have that click of the button to get that thing that we want and need very quickly.
Is that why my 2 a.m. Amazon shopping sprees feel so good?
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, I'm the same way. It's like a wish list, wish list, wish list.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. And I guess the shift that I want to talk to you about, Alyssa, is, a lot of times we're told to quiet the mind. But I think in the work you do, it's more about how do we tune in to not just the mind, but the body as well. And, maybe the thoughts that are coming up in stillness, maybe the thoughts that are coming up at 2 a.m. when we should be sleeping, maybe they're not the problem. Like maybe there's a message, maybe there's a signal, maybe there's something we need to tune into, we need to listen to. So talk to us about, if we were to tune in and listen to those signals, what would they be telling us, and how should we be thinking about them differently?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, right, for those who might be listening that are used to being very rational, logical, analyzing, right? I'm going to say this to those women here, or listeners, we should say, that I recognize that this shift or strategy could get tricky, right? And it isn't about trying to fix or find an answer, it's more about feeling into an answer. And that might be abstract, but the strategy in and of itself is recognizing first and foremost, whoa, I'm having these thoughts, right? Because we can get so lost in them that we don't realize that, whoop, we're doing that thing again, right? It's not until we're completely exhausted that we finally pass out and go to sleep. And next thing you know, the alarm's going off. So noticing first, like, oh, my mind is running, it's going. There's nothing I can do about these things, but this is my mind signaling to me that something's going on. right? Consider that to be a yellow light or an indicator on your dashboard that something needs attention, right? And then kind of zooming out on that instead of how do I fix it, right? Which is what we're so used to doing,
Yes.
to what is it that I need right now in this moment? Forget about next week, next month, or how do I get past this whole phase? No. What do I need in this moment right now in order to feel relief, to feel calm, to feel peace? What is my body signaling to me that it needs and it's not getting? And how can I give myself that? If it's relief, that's the thing to ask yourself, like, okay, what would provide me relief right now that I can do? Is it taking a hot shower even if I've already took one? I don't know, maybe that would help, right? We're going to pay attention that time instead of rushing to take the shower and finish and get
Mhm,
changed.
mhm.
Maybe it's a matter of listening to a song or reading a book or doing anything that's going to cultivate a sense of peace and paying attention to that experience and really being present in it. Now, I say that because I know that it can be tricky or murky to try to not go into the fixing mode. But that is the ask, is asking yourself or telling yourself first that this is my body, my brain, my whole system telling me that I need something that I'm not getting. And then how can I give that to myself?
Yeah, so getting really curious. And
Exactly.
I it's a great point because we are used to, as high achieving women, high performing women, female leaders solving problems. We're solving everyone else's problems. So it should be easy and intuitive for us to say, okay, problem answer, problem answer, problem answer. And it's not about that. So I really appreciate you raising that point because it is very our brains are wired for the problem solving. And
Right.
so, but this is one of those things where we have to slow down and say, this isn't about fixing. This is about getting curious with the thought that's coming up and the feeling and the emotion underneath that. And to your point, identifying the need behind it. And the fixing isn't, what do I need big picture long term? It's what do I need in this moment
Right.
to help myself. And sometimes that's even more important
Mhm.
than the overall solution or fix.
Right. And the other thing is,
Yeah.
too, we do have the solutions, right? Like we do have the answer to that question in terms of what do I need right now? Because maybe there are people in your life that you're used to taking care of and you know how to make them feel relief. You're not that different.
Mm,
Right? We're all, even if we're grown-ups, we're still that child inside, right? That maybe didn't feel worthy or didn't feel loved or felt like they had to perform in order to be accepted. So, in that sense, it's like if you need a little bit of joy, well, then you need a little bit of joy. If you need a weighted blanket, there's nothing wrong with that,
mhm.
right? If you would give it to someone that you love, whether they're
Yeah.
a child or not, you're just as worthy of it yourself.
It's a great point because 'cause we're so willing to do it for others and go out of our way for others and not for ourselves because we
Mhm.
don't feel worthy or we don't think we need it. And I
It's
had someone on
silly.
the pod Yeah, I had somebody on the podcast the other day who's put it in a different way, which was, up until the time you're 18, you have somebody taking care of you.
Mhm.
Hopefully, right? And then hopefully when you get older, you have someone also taking care of you. But in between, you gotta take care of you, like, nobody else is gonna do it, and so that is part of your job, it's part of your responsibility, and thinking about it in the sense that that context that you have to be the one to give it to yourself is a really important shift as well. And the nervous system thing I think is, important too. I wanna go back to I know we're talking about a lot of, the mind, the thoughts, the feelings, the cognitive, but you mentioned the nervous system because there is a physiological component to this too. Like you mentioned, the hypervigilance. And I think when we are in stillness, for a lot of people, calm and stillness can feel uncomfortable. It's funny, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of a reel I saw the other day on Instagram where the woman was doing everything in fast forward motion because it was brushing her teeth in fast forward motion, right? Like eating her food in fast forward motion. And all of a sudden she stopped, laundry and fast forward. And then she slowed down and she's like, wow, nothing happened when I slowed down. Nothing bad happened
Yeah.
when I slowed down. And it made you realize like how many things are we rushing through when there's really no need. And so talk to us a little bit about that sense of urgency that kind of is wired into our nervous system that also I think plays a role when we sit in the calm and the stillness.
Exactly. Well, yes, urgency or moving through life at high speed, it's fear based. right?
Mm.
I've got to get this done. I've got to get that done. And there's so much to do and there's not enough time to do it. And none of this really truly is even conscious at times. I'm just feeling like I can't catch my breath or there's too much to do, right? Like we're so in the rational of it, the logic of it, that sometimes it's not until you really truly have nothing left and you're on the floor saying, how did I even get here? Right. And so it is a matter, I think, yes, of knowing it or realizing first, okay, I'm moving way too fast. I can't keep this up. It's not realistic for anybody. And inviting in the ability to slow down, but knowing that when I do that, it might be uncomfortable. But that
Mhm.
fear, it's going to manifest as sometimes, right, racing thoughts, um, negative thoughts, what all the ideas of what might happen, but your heart racing, difficulty, feeling like you can catch your breath. It can show up as muscle tension or as the sensation even of like your body running, but you're sitting still.
Mhm.
Right? And so we can get these cues from any of our different systems that make up who we are. It could be our physiological, biological system, whether we're, having some of those somatic symptoms, or even if we are just noticing that we're getting sick a lot. Well, it's because we're depleted. It could also be, whether it shows up emotionally or it shows up mentally. Any system that is like loudest at the time, if we get curious with it, it's going to clue us in. But for us high achieving women, more often than not, it's going to show up in output and thoughts. That's where it's going to be
Yeah.
more noticeable, I think, first.
And does that also drive the racing thoughts when we have that feeling of like, I can't shut my brain off?
Yeah, right. Because what happens if I do?
Mhm.
Right? If I'm going to drop the ball, I'm going to
Right.
forget something and everything's going to fall apart. So I need to not only be in control of everything that's happening, but all of the things that might happen. Now,
Mhm.
I'll say this, and I say this like smiling because I know there might be people listening. They're like, yeah, but Lissa, Gia, like the truth
Yes.
is, like if I don't get that bread tonight, then I'm not going to be able to, I won't have bread to give to, to make sandwiches for lunch on
Yep.
Friday.
Yep.
So, yes. And where can we invite in ease, right? If you're going to someone's house, ask them, can I have 2 slices of bread? Because I'm not to the store. Do
Knock
that.
on your neighbor's door.
Yeah, do that online order,
Instacart.
anything.
Yeah.
Or even asking for help,
Mm.
right? And I know that's not easy for us to do, but it is a muscle to be developed over time, and it may take time to not revert back, right? It's uncomfortable at first, it's scary at first, but it's like you said, when we test these new ways of being up against reality and we find
Yes.
that things didn't blow up, or even if they did, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. And nobody died.
Right, right. It's okay.
It's okay. And it's funny, I usually tell clients who are in those moments who are thinking, "Yeah, I know I need to make that shift. I know I need to make that change." But, they have such a hard time asking for help, and I get it. I was once there too. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is without even having to ask for help, make an observation out loud. So instead of saying, "Hey, can you run to the store for me?"
Mhm.
Right? Just start with the observation. "Oh no, we're out of bread. And we won't have any bread to make sandwiches tomorrow." I think just starting with the objective facts and an observation, right, to raise other people's awareness can be a really good place to start.
Mhm. Yep. And it doesn't have to be letting go of perfection a little bit. So I'll self-disclose a little bit in terms of like one way this showed up for me is like one day I had agreed to this really amazing opportunity for the practice and for public speaking. And of course, if your child's in school, then right? You get an announcement 3 days before that, oh, it's moms and muffins
Yep.
morning.
Yep.
And I was so upset because my son was younger and I wanted to, I was always looking forward to doing something like
Of
that, but
course. You don't
this
wanna miss
wasn't
it.
something I could pull out of. And it still breaks my heart that I wasn't there that 1 year. 1 year we're talking. But what I did was I knew I would be home by the time he got home. I cried about it, obviously, I had all my feelings
Mm.
about it, but I had brownies because he likes brownies. and balloons and streamers, and we had our own little mom and Theo afternoon party, and he walked in and he was more excited about that than I thought he maybe would have been if I showed up at school. So, it doesn't have to be perfect. What is accessible to me at
Mhm.
this point in time right here, right now,
Yeah.
you know?
I love how you turned that moment into a positive one and created, probably an even more special memory for both of you.
I hope.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great point. I think because we have this one vision or idea of what success looks like in that moment and in our lives. And it's okay to challenge what that is and what that looks like. Maybe you're not going into school. Maybe you're not baking the muffins. Maybe you're buying the muffins. Maybe you're having a party after school. Maybe you're taking him for ice cream, right? Like it doesn't have to be someone else's version.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. Listen, just before we wrap up, what thoughts do you want to leave or advice do you want to leave our listeners with for the woman who's, questioning her life at 2 a.m. or, sitting with her thoughts in the stillness? What should we start to do or to not do or to think about, with those thoughts that are coming up for us?
I had to boil it down, right? In most simplistic way. Again, it's not about figuring it out or having a long-term answer or having a whole answer. But in those moments where you're finding yourself up late at night, trying not to drop any balls or have all of the answers, I want to invite you to just ask yourself the one question in terms of what am I afraid of? Right. And what can I do with that fear right now? How can I
Mhm.
comfort that fear? And if I could say one more thing, it's like if
Course.
you do have a child and or a younger sibling that you cared for or something like that, how often it is that they wake up in the middle of the night because they're scared or they have trouble falling asleep because they're scared. What would you do for them? Right? Or maybe you were once that child. What did you need then? It may take some figuring out, but that's a
Sure.
way to start is acknowledging the fear and recognizing it and saying like it's okay. And it is. A lot
Mhm.
of things we're afraid of are because we care so much.
Absolutely. It's such a great point and allow ourselves to feel all the feelings and recognize they're all there. They all serve a purpose. They're not good or bad. And I think once we can neutralize them and allow ourselves to feel whatever is coming up, and then to your point, what do we need?
Mhm.
Can be so absolutely. Alyssa, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for coming back on the show. It's been an incredible hour talking to you. Where can our listeners find you, learn more about you and your practice?
Yeah, the best way to reach us is our website. And so you can find us at www.collective-therapy.com. And our practice is the Collective Therapy and Wellness.
Perfect. And we'll have that link in the show notes as well. If this landed with you, share it with a friend who's having the same thoughts at 2 a.m. And if you want more conversations like this, stick around because this is where we make shift happen. We'll see you next week. Take care. All right, shifters, before you jump back into your day or back into your thoughts, if something from this conversation stuck with you, that's not random. A shift doesn't happen because you push harder. It happens when you stop ignoring the thing that keeps coming back. So here's your only ask. If this episode made you think of someone, send it to them. That's how these conversations are spread. Quietly, honestly, person to person. This is What the Shift.